Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Algorithm Speaks. We're your weekly cheat sheet to the wildest corners of the gaming world. This week we are going to be diving headfirst into launch day nostalgia. We'll also be looking at the never-ending graphics debate, and we'll be checking out some surprisingly insightful takes from the internet.
It's amazing what trends online can tell us about the gaming community. You can really see what gets people excited, or what they're worried about, and even what sparks some, well, let's just say interesting opinions.
Oh, I think we all know what you mean by that. Speaking of interesting opinions, let's rewind the clock back to 2000. Remember the PlayStation 2 launch. Specifically, remember waiting in line.
Ah, yes, the days before pre-orders and instant downloads. A different era, for sure. This week, one Reddit user shared their experience of waiting in line for a whopping 26 hours in Akihabara, that's in Tokyo, just to snag a PS2 on launch day. They even posted a photo to prove it. Talk about dedication.
Okay, hold on. 26 hours. That's like practically a whole day lost to the gaming gods. And get this, one commenter pointed out the irony of flying all the way to Japan for a region-locked console. It's like winning a golden ticket to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, only to find out you can only eat the wrappers.
Right. It is a hilarious observation, but it does highlight how much the industry has changed. Back then, region locking was a major obstacle for gamers who wanted to play titles from different parts of the world. It was all about physical copies, limited distribution, and a lot of import headaches.
Yeah, it really was.
Uh-huh.
But you know what? It also created this whole subculture of dedicated importers. These were people willing to jump through hoops and even learn a bit of Japanese just to get their hands on these elusive games. Talk about passion.
Absolutely. And it is fascinating to see how that passion has evolved alongside the industry. With digital distribution and globalized releases, those barriers have largely disappeared. You can just buy games from almost anywhere in the world now with a few clicks. It makes you wonder if something is lost in that convenience.
Like that sense of exclusivity. Or the thrill of the hunt. But hey, at least we're not squinting at blurry translations anymore.
True. Although, let's be honest, sometimes those mistranslations were pure gold. They added an extra layer of unintentional comedy to the games.
Oh, totally. I still remember that one RPG where the villain threatened to unleash his ultimate weapon, which turned out to be, well, a rubber chicken.
Classic. It is a good reminder that limitations can sometimes breed creativity, even if it is accidental.
Very true. Speaking of limitations, let's talk about something that never fails to spark a fiery debate online. The graphics of Pokemon games.
Ah, yes. The eternal struggle between it's a kid's game, who cares about graphics, and come on, Game Freak, we know you can do better.
It's like watching two sides of the internet engage in a pixelated Pokemon battle, forever locked in a stalemate. But this week, it was a Eurogamer article that reignited the flames. They called out the consistent ugliness of Pokemon games and the comments section. Well, let's just say it was more explosive than a Charizard's flamethrower.
One comment that really caught my eye argued that Game Freak consistently underdelivers visually. Yet fans still buy the games in droves. They even went as far as to call Pokemon the Madden of turn-based RPGs, implying that both franchises prioritize yearly releases over visual innovation.
Ooh, spicy take. Is it fair to compare Pokemon, a game that's all about capturing and training fantastical creatures, to a sports simulation? I mean, maybe Pokemon fans simply don't care as much about graphics as other gamers. Or maybe they have just become accustomed to the, let's say, unique art style.
It's an interesting point. Perhaps the core mechanics of catching, battling, and evolving Pokemon are so compelling that they just overshadow any visual shortcomings. Or maybe it's the nostalgia factor, the comfort of revisiting a familiar world with beloved characters, even if those characters look like they were drawn by a toddler with a crayon.
Hey now, toddler art can be charming in its own way. But seriously, it raises a question. Do graphics truly make or break a game? Where's the line between visual fidelity and engaging gameplay?
Well, that is the million, or should we say $Poké-dollar question, isn't it? And it's a question that's been debated for as long as video games have existed.
Yeah, true that. Well, while our listeners ponder that existential gaming dilemma, let's shift gears to something a bit less philosophical. But equally intriguing, we have a screenshot from Red Dead Redemption 2 that's got everyone talking, and not just about the stunning visuals.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What is it?
It's a simple shot of the in-game general store, but the prices for basic goods like canned peaches and crackers are ridiculously high, like Great Depression era high.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it's crazy. And naturally, the internet being the internet, people are drawing parallels to our current economic woes. Inflation, supply chain issues. Maybe Rockstar Games is secretly staffed by economic profits.
Well, one commenter pointed out that those inflated prices aren't accidental. They are actually a reflection of historical events like the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, which completely wrecked the U.S. economy back in the 1930s.
So it's not just a coincidence. History repeating itself in a virtual Wild West, and that's what I call immersive world building.
Exactly. It's a testament to the developers' attention to detail and their ability to weave historical context into the game's fabric. It also shows how even seemingly mundane details in a game can spark thought-provoking discussions about real-world issues.
Well, that is a much more intellectual take on Red Dead Redemption 2 than I was expecting. I was just going to say, man, those virtual peaches are expensive. But hey, I am always up for a little historical deep dive, especially when it involves cowboys and canned goods.
There is always something to learn, even from the most unexpected sources.
Ain't that the truth?
Mm.
Speaking of learning, let's dive into a topic that is sure to stir up some strong opinions. The BioShock trilogy, considered a masterpiece by many. It also has its fair share of detractors, especially when it comes to the third installment, BioShock Infinite.
Ah, yes. BioShock Infinite. A game that dared to be different, for better or worse. While the first two games were praised for their immersive world-building, thought-provoking narratives and innovative gameplay, Infinite took a bold step in a new direction, introducing a vibrant skybound city and a storyline that, well, let's just say it divided the fan base.
Divided might be an understatement. One commenter went as far as calling Infinite a betrayal of the series' core themes and atmosphere. They argued that the marketing misled players, setting unrealistic expectations that ultimately led to disappointment.
It is a common pitfall in the world of sequels, especially when dealing with a franchise as beloved and critically acclaimed as BioShock. How do you innovate and evolve while staying true to the spirit of the original? It's a tightrope walk, and sometimes even the most talented developers stumble.
But hey, even if Infinite wasn't everyone's cup of tea, there's no denying that it sparked conversations and challenged players to think critically about the games they play. Isn't that what great storytelling is all about?
Absolutely. And it's a reminder that even in a medium as interactive as video games, subjective interpretation and personal taste play a huge role in shaping our experiences. What one player considers a masterpiece, another might dismiss as a disappointment.
Well said. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of part 1 of our digital deep dives.
Welcome back, everyone. It's time to grind those thumbs and boot up those consoles because we're diving back into the digital trenches of the gaming world.
Oh yeah, things are about to get really interesting as we unearth some juicy bits from the world of gaming this week. And we'll start by hitting that nostalgia button. Remember those Tony Hawk games? Get ready for a blast from the past with a twist.
Oh man, those were the days.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4 is on the horizon, ready to shred our heartstrings, and maybe make us feel a little old in the process.
I feel old already just thinking about it.
Right. But here's the thing. There's one face notably absent from the lineup, and it sparked quite a reaction online.
Oh yeah, that's right. Bam Margera won't be making an appearance in this remastered collection. And the internet has some, well, thoughts, to say the least. It's understandable, though, given his impact on the franchise and skateboarding culture as a whole. Those crazy stunts, that jackass crossover.
It was wild.
Bam was a big part of what made those games so iconic back in the day.
He was like the embodiment of that rebellious, anything-goes spirit that defined the early 2000s.
So true. But as we all know, life's a half-pipe, full of ups and downs, and Bam's journey hasn't exactly been smooth sailing lately.
It's a bummer to see.
And that's what makes this situation so complex. You can feel the nostalgia mixed with a touch of sadness in the comments section. One of the top comments we saw simply asked, "Did anyone expect him to?"
Oof. Kind of a mic drop moment right there.
Yeah, it speaks volumes. It's a bummer for sure, especially for those who grew up idolizing him. But at the same time, it's a stark reminder that behind the stunts and the persona, there's a real person dealing with real challenges.
That's a good point.
The gaming community seems to be approaching this with a mix of understanding and disappointment, which I think speaks to a growing awareness of the human element behind the games we love.
For sure. It's like we're all collectively growing up a bit, realizing that our childhood heroes are, well, human too. And sometimes even the most talented skaters wipe out.
Yeah, life can be a tough skate park sometimes. Speaking of things that can be tough, let's talk about something that reliably frustrates gamers everywhere: microtransactions. Despite the near universal disdain for this money-grabbing mechanic, it seems like they're just never going away.
Ugh, tell me about it. It's like that annoying mosquito that keeps buzzing around your ear no matter how many times you swat at it.
Exactly.
You'd think with games costing, $70 a pop, we'd be spared the nickel and diming, but nope, not a chance.
This week brought us a prime example of this frustration in action. EA, short for Electronic Arts, decided to take a victory lap for the success of It Takes Two, a fantastic co-op game developed by Hazelight Studios. The problem, EA just published the game, they didn't actually make it.
So basically, they're trying to steal the spotlight for a game that's the antithesis of their usual microtransaction-riddled offerings. Bold move. EA. Bold move. Not sure it's going to win them any popularity contests, though.
Yeah, not a good look. One commenter called them out on it, saying, EA trying to take credit for a game that's actually good? Color me surprised.
Oh, the shade of it all.
It's a sentiment I think a lot of gamers share.
It's like watching your annoying older sibling trying to claim credit for the awesome science project you built, even though they just helped by holding the glue stick. Come on, EA. Give credit where credit is due.
Speaking of things not going as planned, remember that other corporate giant, Sony? Well, they're under fire again for their less than stellar refund policy on the PlayStation Store. You know, the one that basically says tough luck if you buy a game that's broken or just not your jam.
Ah, yes, that classic policy. Such a great look for them.
Not really.
Especially when you compare it to platforms like Steam, which have pretty generous refund options these days.
Yeah, it makes you wonder why Sony is dragging their feet on this one.
It really does. This sparked a whole discussion in the comments about the differences between console and PC gaming. Some argue that Sony's archaic policies are pushing gamers toward the more consumer-friendly embrace of the PC master race.
Can't say I blame them.
It does make you wonder, in an age where digital storefronts are the norm, shouldn't we have the same right to return a product that doesn't meet our expectations as we do with, well, any other purchase?
I mean, logically, yeah.
A bad game is a bad game regardless of whether you buy it on a disc or download it. Maybe Sony should take a page from Steam's playbook and update those policies for the digital age.
Agreed. All right, before we descend into a pit of despair over corporate greed, let's lighten things up with a story that's both infuriating and, honestly, a bit comical. Brace yourself. A game developer shared their experience of having their games stolen.
Oh, no.
And then uploaded to various online stores, including the Nintendo eShop of all places.
You've got to be kidding, not the eShop. This just goes to show digital piracy is a sneaky beast. It's like that pesky raccoon that keeps finding its way into your garbage no matter how tightly you seal the lid.
And this isn't some small indie game either. It's a relatively popular title that managed to slip through the cracks and get listed on one of the most well-known gaming platforms.
Alarming, to say the least.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. It raises serious questions about the vetting process of these stores and the measures they have in place to protect developers from this kind of theft. I mean, Nintendo is notorious for their tight grip on their intellectual property.
That's what makes it so surprising.
But even they are not immune to those digital pirates.
Well, this is just the tip of the iceberg, you know. The comments were flooded with other developers sharing similar stories of having their hard work stolen and re-uploaded without their permission. This is a widespread problem. And it seems like the platforms aren't doing enough to address it.
Yeah, that's the sad part.
It's disheartening, to say the least. Imagine pouring your heart and soul into creating a game, only to have it stolen and sold for someone else's profit. It's like having your secret cookie recipe plastered all over the internet without your consent.
Totally. Talk about a recipe for disaster.
This definitely leaves a sour taste in my mouth. Platforms like Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft need to step up their game and implement stronger security measures to protect their developers from these digital bandits.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, before we spiral into existential dread, let's shift gears to something a little less doom and gloom, something near and dear to many gamers' hearts: PC gaming. But with the rising cost of hardware, is it destined to become an elite club reserved only for those with deep pockets?
That is the question.
Ah, PC gaming. The eternal land of limitless possibilities and eye-watering price tags. It's a love-hate relationship for many. But this week, that love was tested with the release of AMD's latest graphics card, the Radeon RX 9070 XT.
Yeah, that price tag is enough to make even the most dedicated PC gamer sweat a little. And it sparked a heated debate in the comment section about the future of PC gaming. Is it becoming a hobby only for the wealthy elite?
Well, some argued that in the current market, consoles like the PS5 Pro actually offer a better value proposition. You get a lot of bang for your buck, and you don't have to worry about constantly upgrading your hardware to keep up with the latest games.
Yeah, there's something to be said for the simplicity and affordability of consoles.
Yeah?
But let's not forget about the advantages of PC gaming. That vast library of games, the freedom to mod and customize, the ability to push those graphical settings to the max and bask in the glorious glow of ray-traced reflections.
Not to mention the feeling of accomplishment when you build your own rig from scratch. That's priceless. Well, maybe not priceless, considering the current cost of components, but you know what I mean.
It's a trade-off, isn't it? Convenience and affordability versus power and customization. It's like choosing between a delicious prepackaged meal and a gourmet feast you meticulously prepared yourself.
Totally. I think both approaches have their merits. Ultimately, it comes down to personal preference and what you prioritize in your gaming experience.
All right, one last topic before we wrap up part 2. It wouldn't be a deep dive into the gaming world without addressing the age-old debate: graphics versus gameplay. Does a game need cutting-edge visuals to be considered truly great? Or can a game with retro graphics still capture our hearts and minds?
This week, that debate was reignited by a seemingly simple statement posted online. I don't mind old graphics. You'd think that wouldn't be controversial, but you'd be wrong.
It's like throwing a live grenade into a room full of gamers.
Yeah, the responses were all over the map. Some argue that graphics are crucial for immersion, creating a believable and engaging world.
That makes sense.
Others countered that gameplay trumps visuals every time. They pointed to classic games like Tetris, Pac-Man, and even Minecraft, proving that compelling mechanics and addictive gameplay loops can transcend graphical limitations.
I mean, you can't argue with the classics. They still hold up today.
It's a reminder that gaming is a diverse and multifaceted medium. What appeals to one player might not resonate with another, and that's okay. The beauty of gaming lies in its ability to cater to a wide range of tastes and preferences.
So true.
Whether you're a graphics enthusiast who drools over every ray-traced water droplet or a gameplay purist who prioritizes tight controls and innovative mechanics, there's a world of games out there waiting to be explored, and that's what makes this such a fascinating and ever-evolving industry to follow.
Well said. Okay, gamers, it's the final round, the last level, the epic conclusion of our digital odyssey. We've journeyed through the highs and lows, the nostalgia and the frustrations of the gaming world, but now we face the ultimate boss level, the future of gaming itself.
It's time to look ahead. Will PC gaming survive those rising hardware costs? Can mobile gaming finally escape those free-to-play traps? And the big question, will we ever reach a point where graphics are so real we can't even tell the difference between games and, well, actual life?
I mean, I'm not sure I'm ready for a world where I can trip over a virtual coffee table. But, speaking of graphics, remember that comment we talked about earlier? I don't mind old graphics. You'd think that wouldn't be controversial, but wow.
It sparks some really strong opinions, and I think it highlights this growing appreciation for games that really focus on substance over style. Sure, amazing graphics are nice, but they're not everything.
So true. Take Kingdom Come, Deliverance, for example. It's gotten so much praise for its world, those deep RPG mechanics, and that combat system, even though it's not pushing the limits graphically.
It proves that a well-made game with a good story can totally stand the test of time, even if it doesn't have all the bells and whistles.
It's like finding that vintage leather jacket in your dad's closet. It might not be the most fashionable, but it has character.
Yeah.
And it just fits right. Sometimes the classics are classics for a reason.
Couldn't agree more. All right, let's talk mobile gaming. It's often seen as a wasteland of cheap games and microtransactions, but is that all there is?
Remember that comment lamenting the lack of good PC ports on Android? It's a good point. There are some great games like Grid Autosport, Alien, Isolation, but the quality can be all over the place. And those free-to-play games, with their constant nudges to spend money, it's like that friend who always forgets their wallet when you go out to eat.
Oh, yeah. I know that friend.
It's frustrating. But you know what? There are some developers out there who are pushing the boundaries of mobile gaming, creating games that are perfect for touchscreens and playing on the go.
Like Monument Valley, for example. It's a masterpiece of design and puzzle mechanics, perfectly suited for mobile.
Absolutely. It shows that mobile gaming can be so much more than just cheap knockoffs. It can be innovative and creative, especially as mobile technology keeps getting better.
Yeah, it's an exciting platform.
So where does all this leave the future of gaming? Are we headed for this kind of fragmented world of different platforms, each with their own pros and cons?
It seems likely. Consoles will probably stick around, offering that curated, more affordable experience. PC gaming will be the choice for those who want power and customization. And mobile, that's the wild card. It has the potential to reach so many people, more than consoles and PCs combined.
It's an exciting time to be a gamer. Will VR finally take off? Will cloud gaming change everything? And will AI create games that are so smart, they'll be giving us tips?
I guess we'll have to wait and see. But one thing's for sure. The gaming industry is always changing, always evolving, driven by technology, what gamers want, and those creative developers.
That's what keeps it so interesting. As we wrap up this deep dive, we want to encourage everyone out there to embrace the change, keep exploring, and never stop questioning the status quo.
Whether you're a hardcore gamer or just starting out, remember, gaming is about more than just high scores and beating levels. It's about connection, community, and sharing those digital adventures.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll leave you with one final thought. What will your role be in shaping the future of gaming? Until next time, fellow gamers, keep those thumbs limber and those minds open. Game on.